Directors to order. Director Poshan, would you please read the board priorities?
The Davenport School Board establishes the following priorities to ensure the academic success of all students. Provide leadership and direction to improve the overall learning environment in our classrooms, schools, and district, including the health, safety, security, and happiness of students and staff. Direct and support actions, programs, and activities which reduce the impacts of poverty on our students, their families, and our community.
Director Hayes, would you please read the mission and vision statements?
Yes, I'll be happy to. The mission statement to enhance each student's abilities by providing a quality education enriched by our diverse community. And our vision statement is to education that challenges conventional thinking, prepares all students to compete in a global society, and inspire our students, parents, staff, and community to answer the question, what if?
All right, we're going to move on to our presentations. We are going to flip-flop them. Up first, we are going to do subject 2.02, athletics, recognitions, and Superintendent Schneckoff. I'll turn it over to you.
So, Associate Superintendent Rob Scott is going to run us through. We've had a pretty productive sports season here in the last couple of months, and we have some wonderful student athletes, and this is one of those things that's earned and not given, and I couldn't be more proud of the work that our student athletes are doing, and so we wanted to publicly recognize them, and so Associate Superintendent Rob Scott is absorbing through our attrition our district athletic director duties, and so Rob, go ahead.
Sounds good. Thanks again for allowing me to do this. It's been a little bit since I read names at a graduation level, whatever. So this will be, I apologize to the parents online or anybody listening, whatever. I'm going to do my best to make sure I get the names right. But great accomplishments by our students. They put in a lot of time, as we know. It's not just during the season. It's all of the extra work, off-season, weight room, any number of things, and the parents that get them to the place they need to be to get to this accomplishment. So I think it's important that these athletes that qualify for the state, we acknowledge those. We'll try to do that more on a quarterly basis or at the end of seasons in the future. And then, again, we're fortunate enough to have a state champion in the room tonight. We're going to acknowledge those state champions also here at board meetings and invite them to come down and meet with you guys also. To start out with, at cross country early in the year at West, and the coach was Aaron Reitz, we had Kylie Daly, took 35th in the state. For girls swimming, coach at Central was Brian Heller. We had Isabella Heller, Paige Pearson, Simone Green, and Hannah Cousins. Isabella was 15th in the 100 breaststroke. Hannah was 14th in the 100 freestyle and 6th in the 100 backstroke. Hannah Cousins and Simone Green, Isabella Heller, and Paige Pearson, as I had said, were 17th in the 200 medley. And Liz Weber, Simone Green, Hannah Cousins, and Paige Pearson were 16th in the 400 freestyle relay. Moving on to girls diving at West High School, the coach was Chuck Dene. I think that's, I'm sorry, Chuck, if that's the best I got. Ella Heath was 18th place in our diving at West High School. So congratulations to them. We have boys swimming at Central. Coach was Brian Heller. We had Kyle Hopewell. Kyle was 3rd place in the state for the butterfly, earning All-American consideration. He was also 23rd in the 100 back. We had Keegan Tolley, Carter Sullivan, Austin Siebert, Max Wetland, and Brody Thomas. Out of those names, Carter Sullivan was 16th in the 50 free and 23rd in the 100 free. Max Wetland was 9th in the 50 free and 9th in the 100 free. As a team, they finished 14th overall. The medley relay of Max and Keegan and Kyle and Carter finished 10th in the 400 free relay. And the team of Austin, Carter, Kyle, and Max finished 10th. So great accomplishments. There were a lot of great swimmers. Wrestlers, that we have at North High School. Jacob Connor was the coach there at North, and he had Cade Sheedy, took 8th place, and also had Alazar Valerio qualified for state. And again, I apologize for I messed up the name. At West High School, we had Jim Weisrock as the coach for wrestling, and we had Aiden Nicholas qualified for state, and we also had Travis Hodges took 8th place at the state. As I move into bowling at Central High School, we had Craig Nord was the coach, and the students that were on this team placed 3rd in state. It was Jacob Hunt, Zach Pendleton, Gage McAllister, Nate Hellstrom, Brady Krager, and Charlie Woolridge. And then at North High School, coached by Jeff Strouth, and they were 2nd place in team state. I had Carter Moore, Ashton Folger, Ashton Helsing, Malachi Funk, Nate Martinez, Blake Fries, and Noah Geron. Out of those names, Blake was also 3rd in state. Malachi was 9th in the state, and Ashton Helsley was 5th in the state. And then one final name at West High School, Mark Schlichting was the coach for their bowling team, and Stephen Daly was 45th place in the state. So, it's quite a few names that we're listing off there. And again, a lot of kids participating, and it is extremely hard to get to the state level. It's not like just everybody gets there. So it's a lot of work and a lot of time by the coaches. And as we move on to this program, part of the quarterly report, I think that we will start providing you as like regional winners also, because there's a lot of kids who are having success winning tournament situations, district level, and that we can do in some board reports for you to have what's going on in our Bathlete programs. But at this point, I'm going to have Kevin Peters come up and as the athletic director of Central High School, and I'm going to have him introduce his state champ.
All right, thank you, Mr. Scott. Once again, I'm Kevin Peterson, Athletic Director at Davenport Central. Just to say a few words, this is Brady Krager. He's our new state champ for Class 3A. To say a few words about it, I've been to a couple different state bowling meets, and they're pretty exciting. The kids get, the one thing about bowling is they not only cheer for their own team, but when they see someone having a good game, they kind of sneak down and they kind of watch and see. And if you want to talk about good games, Brady here, he had one of the best two-game series in the history of sanctioned bowling in Iowa. The first game, he bowled a 275, and he was leading the group. And then the second game, he turned around and topped that and bowled a 287. So his overall total of 562 was the all-time record in the state of Iowa, and he's only a freshman. So once again, like Mr. Scott said and Mr. Schneckloff told him earlier, we're extremely proud of you, Brady. It's quite an accomplishment, and like I said, it's not that you're just a state champ. I mean, you are literally the best state champ in the history of bowling in Iowa. Wow. That is
I had a good time, and I was there for my teammates, and everybody was just cheering me on, so just gotta do what you gotta do. My dad, his name is Justin, and my mom's name is Danielle, and I have a younger sister named Cameron, and yeah, that's it.
And on top of that, Brady also had his grandpa there too, and in discussions, Grandpa said Grandpa taught Dad, and Dad's taught Brady, and so it's kind of been a family thing, and I'm sure it was really exciting for his family to be there and to witness it all. And then like Mr. Scott also said, he bowled such a good game, and his teammates rallied around him, and that's where they were able to get 3rd in the state as a team too. So it was quite a day. It was quite exciting, even for Davenport schools, with North getting 2nd and having 3 top 10 winners, and us bringing home 3rd and having the state champ. It was one of our most successful meets we've had. So once again, congratulations, Brady.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Justin and Danielle, you must be incredibly proud, because I know we are. So thank you for coming up tonight and sharing that with us. We are exceptionally proud of all of our athletes. So the second presentation that we have also involves the naming of Brady Street Track for Ira Dunsworth. So Rob, if you would have come up and kind of kick this off to our school board.
Sure. Actually, I was going to say when I was talking to Brady, he said 562, and I was like, well, I maybe could have been a state champ. And then he told me it was 2 games instead of 3. I was like, I had a shot back in the day then. No, and he goes, I did that in 2 games. I'm like, oh, maybe not then.
Spare me your excuses.
So, I'm also here today. We've probably almost 2.5 years ago, we started down the path, had a recommendation from a community member to name our track at Brady Street after Ira Dunsworth, a legendary Hall of Fame coach. And I know you have the materials shared with you, but he is, his record amongst the state and as a state qualifying or a state champion coach and everything. And I'll let Mr. Peterson talk a little bit about him, but we feel privileged to bring it. Now, part of that case, we've had a few superintendent changes. We've had a couple things, and people say, we've had a philosophy where with the previous superintendent where we weren't moving on naming of rights. And again, we're just bringing that to you as a board. We feel it meets the criteria present. I worked very closely with Mary Carruthers, the board secretary, prior to this, as far as making sure that it met the policy and the criteria and the representation from the community. So at that point, I'm going to turn to Mr. Peterson, have him say a couple things about Mr. Dunsworth, and then we'll take whatever questions you may have.
All right, back again. So I'm actually a 97 grad of Central, and Ira was my teacher. I didn't run track. But as you can see from the stuff that we've presented for you, he has 15 state championships in cross country and track. That's almost unheard of as a coach in Iowa. You look at a lot of the top coaches that, we've not just in Davenport, but have had courts named after them, fields named after them. They're nowhere near that. And, Ira didn't stop when he retired. He didn't stop when he was done coaching. He became an official, and he's continued to help run and has helped the athletic directors out tremendously because he has all of his connections that he's had over the years. All these guys come back and help us at our track meets. He's still now coming back, even though he's been battling cancer. He's come back the last 3 years to help with every single meet. His wife, Dolly, gets the medals together for us. I mean, he's not just a track coach. He is the face of track basically in the state of Iowa. He's in the Hall of Fame for track and cross country. If anyone that has ever been named for a field or a court or anything is deserving, Ira is more deserving than anyone that has gotten it in the past. And we've been working on it for a couple years now. North and West are completely on board because they know the importance of him being involved in that. And he's still, like I said, he's still coming back. He has his own meet that is named after him, the Ira Dunsworth Invitational. It's one of the bigger ones in the state. We get teams from Cedar Falls to come down, Cedar Rapids, and a lot of it is due to Ira. Ira has built up our track programs even after he left. Randy Peters continued the tradition, won a couple meets, or a couple state championships as well. I really hope that we can, take a look at this, and then in the next couple of weeks, maybe be able to vote on it, because I would really love to get that in place for his meet April 8th so that him and his family can, be recognized for everything they've done. If you have any questions about Ira, I didn't put too much in, but like I said, the material's there. There's really nothing that you could say that he's not deserving of it.
Just to piggyback off Mr. Peterson saying is that it is our intent to present to the board and then bring that through our normal protocols. And so we wanted to present this idea and the packet and the information to you and then come forward to follow our process moving forward. So,
Yep.
Do any board members have any questions?
All right. Once again, thank you.
Director Poston?
Well, I'd just like to say that Ira has touched so many lives, not only in coaching track, but also in the classroom. I knew him from when I attended Central. Also, he and Tom Murphy did a lot of hunting at our farm. Once in a while, they did get a pheasant, but I think they enjoyed the exercise more than anything. But he, like I said, he's touched so many lives, and it's very deserving. And hopefully, we can get this on the agenda as soon as possible. And
All right, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Also, congratulations to all of our student athletes. 2 plugs. I would like to see if we work with Special Olympics so that all of our students have these opportunities. And my other plug is going to be, I really hope they sanction girls wrestling. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Thank you very much again, and the board appreciates your report. Student board reports. Basically, student board reports are for you to report to us on what you got going on in your building and activities. Turn it over to you.
Yeah, just a quick little note. The arts program here at Central, they've been working on putting things together in a COVID-friendly manner. And basically what we've done, we started streaming our stuff virtually. So just a little quick plug for that. The Drama Club has been putting on presentations of the play Clue. So they're all masked. They're in the auditorium. No one else is there, but they're streaming that live. And if you go to our school's website, people can go and see that. And then in addition to that, the music programs, the orchestras, the choirs, the bands, they're all streaming their concerts. We have a band concert on Thursday this week. And if people want to go and check some of that stuff out, they can go to Central's website, and there will be a link available for that. And that's all I got.
Excellent. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you for that.
Well done.
Board reports. Director Beck.
Well, I was just going to say, my family sat down and watched the live stream of Clue with Central, and it was really well done, and we really enjoyed it. And so kudos to Central for putting that on. And it was filmed at Renwick Mansion, and so it was really neat to see how they made use of all the different rooms, and it was a fun production. So,
Director Hayes.
The board would like to send our condolence out to the Winfrey family in the loss of their son, which was one of our students. The time for visitation services have not been set as of yet. And as soon as it is, we'll make sure that everyone has that information so you're aware of it.
Director Snyder.
I just wanted to share with the board a card we got from former board member Miss Nikki DeFau. A couple weeks ago, I kind of gave her and her family our condolences for the loss of her husband, Dan. In fact, that night, I was so nervous, more nervous than I've ever been doing anything at this table, because I wanted nothing more than to do Nikki proud for everything she's done for us and as a district, and just her as a personal friend. And I think that night I said her husband, and I mentioned her kids' names, but I never said Dan's name. So I felt bad for that. But I wanted to share with the board that she wrote us a nice card, and it's very thoughtful. It reads, "Dear President Gosa and members of the board, thank you for the beautiful peace lily in remembrance of my husband, Dan. As you know, our spouses are our silent partners keeping things going at home so that we can serve on the board. Our family appreciates the outpouring of support we've received after our terrible loss. Thank you for your kindness, Nikki DeFau."
Thank you, Director Snyder. Director Poston.
I was able to make a few more school visits. I want to thank Principal Jones at Smart, Principal Goddard at Hayes, Principal Driscoll at Monroe, Principal Conrad at Washington, Principal Garnica at Walcott, Principal Gilliland at Buffalo, and Principal Gott at Bluegrass. When I'm going around to the buildings and visiting with the principals, a few of the questions that I've been asking is, what their building needs are and what their wish list is. I talked to them about, especially on the elementary side, I talked to them about the effect of having sixth graders staying in the elementary. We talk about the administrative reorganization, the effect of closing Keystone on their building, and then also what their biggest frustration is outside of COVID. And so I've really enjoyed visiting with the principals and getting to know the buildings and see what some of their needs are. Hopefully, we will be getting started on a long-range building plan and really look at some of these needs. When I was at SMART, there was a little bit of an altercation, so I got to see CRVP in action, and Tanya, I got to see you in action there at SMART. Over at Monroe, Principal Driscoll does not have an office. His office is the isolation room, and so he is operating out of his backpack. And again, a few other tidbits, and what I want to do once I'm completed seeing all the buildings is kind of write up a report, present that to the board, and present that to staff. But again, I've really enjoyed it, and I appreciate the principals taking the time out of their busy schedule, because they are busy, and again, thanks to them for allowing me the time.
Are there any other board reports? I have two. First, I just wanted to say Little League signups are going now. Everybody's doing a virtual signup for baseball and softball. There's also the Challenger League. And if you haven't been able to get out and see the new Miracle Field, it's pretty awesome. And then my other report, I wanted to do this big sign behind me to make sure that people understand that this isn't a suggestion. When you are driving in school zones, adhere to the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. This is a pretty big sign. This is the size of the signs. All too often, I see people flying through our school districts, and one day a kid's going to step out and you're going to hit him, and that's going to be a whole different ball game. People really, really need to start adhering to this. It's getting ridiculous. Company trucks, I see it all the time. I will call your bosses. Most of them have GPSs in the vehicle, and they know where you are. My kids go to school. It's getting warmer out. Kids are going to be walking. We have 100% in school. I'm going to leave this thing behind me. I really want to thank Corey Spiegel and Sarah Ott at the city and Alderman Rick Dunn for bringing it up to me so that I could get my hands on this. But, I mean, this is 3 foot. I don't know how people don't see this. In a school zone, it is 25 miles an hour. There are signs clearly marking the school zones and clearly marking when the school speed limit ends. It is till 5 p.m. for the kids that are doing after-school activities. It's not that hard, people. Just start paying attention. Somebody's going to hit one of our kids, and we've already had too many tragedies in this district, and we don't need any more. And now I'm going to get off my soapbox and move on. Now everybody's going to be focusing on that behind me the whole rest of the night. Director Snyder and I have really, really pushed on this thing for years and years, but it gets so bad when you just see people flying 40, 50 mile an hour in a school zone, especially the elementaries and stuff. But anyway.
I'm going to chime in out of turn here without raising my hand, but it also does not say when children are present. Some municipalities, their sign says 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. when children are present. You never know when children are going to be present. Children don't always make the best decisions. They're easily distracted. Hell, I'm easily distracted. It's our responsibility to watch for them.
Thank you, Director Snyder. Are there any other board reports? Seeing none, I'll move on to communications. Open forum. Open forum is a time for members of the community to give input at board meetings regarding school district issues or concerns. Individuals who want to speak should fill out an open forum request and give it to the board secretary prior to open forum. The board secretary will not act on any issue presented during open forum, or the board will not. I said the board secretary. If it was not published as an agenda item. The Iowa Open Meetings Law prohibits actions on any issues that is not on the agenda. The president will set the amount of time allowed for individuals to speak during open forum. The board asks that no charges or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or the community during open forum. Remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order. And also, for the second and final time, the open forum request form is now available on the front page of the district website, the right-hand side. For those people who want to participate virtually, forms must be submitted to Brenda T. by 3 p.m. on the day of the board meeting. Are there any open forum requests? Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. May I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
I move the board accept the consent agenda as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Beck. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Poston?
Yes.
Director Potts?
Yes.
Director Snyder?
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. May I have a motion on the approval of bills? Director Beck.
Mr. President, the following resolution is recommended by the administration for adoption of the bills from the bill listing periods of February 18th, 2021 to March 3rd, 2021. Resolved, all claims presented to the board having been duly certified as correct by the secretary, reviewed by the administration and board members, and they are hereby audited and allowed as just claims and warrants drawn on the treasury for the several amounts. Further resolved, the payment of claims and salaries be approved as presented for the periods of February 18th, 2021 to March 3rd, 2021 with the following voided check. Check number 14163 because it had the wrong address.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Hayes. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Director Beck.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director Potts.
Yes.
Director Poston.
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Superintendent report.
I have two reports for tonight. The first one, I would like to acknowledge our school board. There are a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that nobody knows about, nobody gets credit for. Last couple of weeks, I noticed our school board members collecting money, and two of our school board members, Dan and Linda, delivered very needed necessities and gifts to the family who lost a young child in our district, and that happens all the time with these people. They are at funerals, they are sending condolences, they are visiting schools, and so the notion that they are really strong people in our community and care deeply is an understatement. The materials that were dropped off at the house were how to handle certain situations financially and emotionally. And I think about how wonderful that is from somebody that they see and hear on television. So I, first of all, wanted to say thank you to all of our board members, because those kinds of things do not go unnoticed, and they make a huge difference in our community. I know when I've lost loved ones, Linda's been at the funeral, and that's pretty incredible, if you ask me. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of our community for that, because you guys do an outstanding job. People have no idea what you're doing behind the scenes without ever getting one of those. So thank you very much for doing that. I know that was probably very difficult, but thank you. The second thing, we have earlier on in the year, TAG, Mike's team, was commissioned to build the Davenport Schools website. And we have been delaying the launch of this website for the right time. Well, our current website might force our hand with that, as Don continues to let me know. So our current website's being run on a server that Gary Sloat has been duct taping back together for a long time. And so Mike and his team has said, well, why don't we put away the Cavalier and get out the Cadillac? And it's time. And so what we would like to do is share with you and the community the first viewing of our new website. We have a lot of bugs to work out, and I want to remind the community that anytime a website launches, the best way to get feedback is to let the users use it and give the feedback. That's what Don tells me. We are working tirelessly behind the scenes right now, but he's going to go through some facts here with you about how many links exactly are on our website. So to actually get to the bottom of it all will take a while. The launch of this, we haven't set the date yet because we're still working on some internal factors. Those internal factors will be training our own internal users. Each one of you heard Asher talk about how they upload these to their websites and things like that. So in each one of our buildings, we have a person that's responsible for updating the district website. This website is by far and away different than ours. Our website acts like a WordPress blog. This website is an interactive multimedia tool. It's just night and day different, and it is beautiful. It's stunning. I can't tell. Our tag team has done an outstanding job putting this together. So without further ado, we have Don Farber with us, and he is the
Chief Digital Officer for TAG.
Thank you, Don. And Don has a team of people here with us to help answer questions. So Don, if you wouldn't mind, everybody obviously knows who Mike is, but the other TAG employees that are here, if you would not mind introducing them before we get going, and then we'll get going.
Olivia Cronin is Vice President of Digital.
Come up here.
And Brianna Roseman is your
Will you say that again into the mic, Don?
Brianna Roseman is this project's project manager.
And if you guys wouldn't mind coming on up here. You can't shut that. Oh, that one's open.
Just leave it cracked.
We also have a team of artists, dedicated team of artists, developers. You have one developer working on the old website and one developer working on the new website at the same time. So it's a full team behind us. Oh, and there I am. Okay. As TJ said, your current website has done you well, but it has reached its end of life. It is not mobile responsive, and it is the two biggest things with the old website is Gary has done a great job keeping that site running, but it is not mobile responsive, and it is also the bigger issue is it's not ADA compliant. So it is not compliant to people with disabilities. The new website is not only mobile compliant, but it is ADA compliant, specifically WCAG 2.1 compliant, which means it follows 508 compliance, ADA compliance, and even California Consumer Protection Act compliance. So that was the one of the bigger reasons why we urged the school to update their website. And I am afraid that the old website is not going to last much longer. Anyway, what we have built for you is a fully compliant website. A school's website, the purpose of a school website is to provide information to the district but not just parents, not just administrators, but also states, communities, and sometimes the students are forgotten in that audience. So we feel that we've built a truly engaging website that is multimedia interactive, has a lot more technology associated to it that will engage, but also in the long run help the district be more efficient with their website. So what you're seeing here, it all runs from the foundation of the district website. So this is the homepage of the district website. We wanted to build a full-page website, but it is also mobile responsive. What you're seeing here is it's called a marketing slider or hero slider. This is your billboard on the internet highway to promote what is most important for the district right now. We're feverishly trying to keep up with old website, new website. Right now, TJ's message of 3/1/21 is up there. The district has the ability for video display in the background or static images that can display with messaging in the background. The video is much more interactive. As I roll over, you can see some micro interactions. Even the logo moves a little bit, but we've got drop-down menus, which are standard for websites. But on the left-hand side, we've got quick link menus. These can be changed on a whim. They can be changed every 15 minutes if the district wanted to. Open forum forms is a good example of what can be placed there. This links off to that message. As I scroll down, as TJ mentioned, the old website was more of a blog platform. So what we have done here is we've made sure that top news displays instantaneously. So we're not losing that instant news message. So the top two news stories are displaying. As I scroll down, they display chronologically. The school's mission, again, very visual. And then we run through a top-down marketing platform where we want to make sure for the user experience that students, anybody who's using the website, parents, students, administrators, whoever it may be, are able to find the information that is most important to them. And this can be displayed via statistics and traffic, but these can be changed up as well. We're giving multiple ways to get to the top levels of information, the most traffic information. As I scroll down again, you see the foundation of the school: academics, staff, athletics, so on and so forth. Visual, again, testimonials from, these are real testimonials from students, teachers, parents. They display how the district has helped my student or helped me as a student. So promoting the district as a place for excellence. Scrolling down even further, the district, starting at the top level, engaging statistics, again, using micro interactions, following the brand that you see on the wall today. These, again, can be changed on a whim and dynamically to promote the good things that are happening within the district. As I scroll down even further, promoting the district again, these are logos of scholarships that Davenport School District students have won for universities throughout the U.S., again, promoting academics. And they can also promote athletic scholarships. It is multimedia interactive. Every page of the website, there are 37 different websites within this program. Every homepage of the website, and basically 85% of all pages in the district websites have the ability to have video on the homepage and on select pages. People prefer actually now to watch short form video over reading a lot of words. We're integrating social media. This is the district's Instagram feed. And each school has the ability to display their own social media. And as I scroll down, the footer is fairly consistent throughout, maintaining a brand consistency throughout all the websites. I'm going to scroll through a few pages here. I'm going to go to schools. As I scroll down, one of the functionalities that the web team, the district web team, requested was a lookup for my school. So if I'm moving into the district, I can look up based on my address, the nearest school near me, what school zone I'm in. And search this. And this gives me, it starts with high school, the high school that is nearest me, my location, but I can also display what is the intermediate school district I'm in and which elementary school districts I fall in. So for people who are moving into the district, this will be a good tool for them. I'm going to scroll down. Again, top-down navigation, the district, everything about the district, everything about the schools, academics foundation, the departments within the district. There is a robust section now for family and students where I can go gather information about what is important to me as not only a parent for my student, but as a student, what's important to me in the district. There is a community section as well, where we're tying in with the alumni, business partnerships, so on and so forth, and a very robust media section where I can gather, this is all the district news, but I can gather newsletters, social media feeds, photo galleries, and video galleries. So for the students, I think that will be, I know I like to go look at pictures of my students and how they've performed in their district. So, and there is a section for the board as well. Anti-bullying and employment front and center on the top of every page. As I scroll down, we break down the district then by high schools, academies, intermediate schools, elementary schools, so on and so forth. I'm just going to run through Central since they're on top. As I open up Central, it gives me the quick information and a phone number for quick contact, but I can visit the website from here. As I go to Central, you can see the brand consistency throughout here, for the district. I can always tell that I'm on a district website, but each school's website has its own personality in terms of color, information, what can be displayed in the marketing slider. All of this is administratable through the content management system. Each school has its own quick links. Whatever is most important for that school, they'll be able to enter that. You can see Central branded with their school colors. As I scroll down again, this is Central High School news, front and center, the most relevant stories there. And then as I scroll down, about Davenport Central, top-down marketing for Central, the school itself, school calendars, teachers and staff, academics, etc. These are testimonials for Central High School. And as I scroll down, I'm trying to do this off the screen. These are statistics for Central High School. So these again can be updated on the fly to promote what is happening, what is well within the district and what is well within each school. Again, the homepage, you can see following the same brand consistency. This video can be relevant to that school. This can be Davenport Central's Instagram feed. As I scroll down, then the footer remains consistent throughout all websites with district news, testimonials for that school, so on and so forth. As I go through the schools, I can explore the school staff directory. I'll go there. It's massive, so it does take a minute to load. One thing that we have done with the staff directory is that we are running the directory off of a singular CSV file. So each school is not responsible for their own staff. It comes from the district. We're trying to centralize as much as we possibly can off the district website, so it takes the burden off the schools individually for content. But in this staff directory, what has changed here is I can actually physically search for, I can search for school, I can search for principal, if I could spell. So I can find principals, I can find all the way down to first grade teachers. I can search throughout. And again, this is run off of a CSV file. So as changes are made to the staff, we upload one file and it updates instantaneously. Academics, I'm going to go back to schools and go to go back to Central. The high schools, you'll see as we go through the schools, they become a little bit less complex as we go through them. The high schools are broken up by Explore the High School, Academics, Athletics, the Arts, Parents and Students, Clubs, and Media. If I go to Academics or Explore, I can explore those. Athletics, there is... we're going to be able to promote the good news via the athletic office. Every page has the availability for a video or photo gallery broken all the way down to that specific sport. So fall sports. I can search by fall sports. So varsity football. I can go in there and varsity and freshman football can have their own rosters, schedules, photo galleries, video galleries, and news feeds. As I get to, then I move over to the arts. One thing that we've made an emphasis for the arts on the new district page. Again, photo galleries and videos available for all. I'll just choose performing arts. I can break out performing arts and then any subcategories that should fall underneath those. Also, again, to emphasize a robust section for parents and students, not just by the district, but per each school. Clubs, I want to make sure that I call out clubs. There is a super robust area for clubs on the new website by school. They have not, in my opinion, been given the marketing power that they should. So if I just choose academic clubs, I can go down here. If I choose National Art Society, the National Art Society can promote what's happening within the National Art Society, and again, have video, photo galleries, et cetera, et cetera. Media page per each school. I'm going to go back to the district and break it down to a intermediate school, or the discussion is, should they be called junior highs now? I will just pick, I'll pick Walcott because it's a hybrid. Again, each school has its logo. I go to that school. The color brand, oops, I'm sorry. I don't like thumb pads, apologize. Walcott Elementary has its own, again, personality in that it is branded with its color, its logo. It has its own news, top-down marketing, testimonials for Walcott Elementary, statistics for that school. As you see, we get a little less complex as we get down into intermediate schools and elementary, explore, academics, activities, still parents and students and media. I am going to go back to the district and bring up an elementary school. I'll just choose Adams. And again, Adams, we have displaying the same video throughout, but each school has the ability to display their own video or images. Adams has its own call-outs, quick call-outs, down through, again, testimonials, statistics for that school. Elementaries are broken down to principal's office, explore, academics, services, and media. So I think what you're seeing here is, again, an ADA compliant website that I feel is extremely engaging. You have several audiences that you want to promote to. And one of those bigger audiences I think that get left behind is the students. And I think this is going to help the students because engage with the website and really take an interest in the district.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Any questions from the board members?
Director Beck.
First of all, thank you. It's I think, a wonderful improvement over what we currently have. I like the interactivity. I love that each school can personalize its own page and that doesn't have to funnel through a central location. I think that's going to make it a lot, well, it's going to make people it's going to give people a chance to take ownership and to celebrate what's going on in their buildings. So I really appreciate that. Will schools be able to take advantage of that specialization? Say they're doing the flu shots at the elementary school. Will parents be able to submit forms online if the school chooses to do it that way? Or is that something maybe not going to work because of requiring signatures and things like that?
Yes, it can be, again, that can even be personalized per school, but
Okay.
to give as much interaction, give as much or as little interaction as the school desires.
Okay,
Yes.
so all those things that we get in our e-blasts or whatever, if it says go to this website to sign up for this fundraiser, we'll
Yes.
be able to put those on the website so that we can do it right from there. Fantastic. Love it.
Yes.
Thank you.
I guess you did a really good job explaining it.
I've been doing it for a while. Thank you.
You have a lot of drip here, so I think the students will actually be engaged in it. And everybody else in the room's like, what the heck's he talking about? I just hear my kid talk about it all the time, so I'm a hip dad. It looks great. My question is the open forum request. You said you could add that on there, and I just read a little bit ago that it's in the right-hand corner. So if you could help me out with that, that would be great. Otherwise, let me know where it's going to be so I can update that on my next reading.
Yeah, I mean, I actually came over to the district and sat in the district for 4 hours the other day to make sure that some of the updates for academics were made. We're diligently working to make sure that it is such a huge departure from the old website to the new website that I want to make sure that all the schools understand the availability to them. So that is what we're working on right now to get through. a website should be perfect when you at that moment in time, but should also always ever be evolving. So that is what we're working on to make sure that we get all the pertinent information available prior
Is
to
this
launch.
mobile friendly as well? It looks like it would be, but because most people are, I mean, the only time I get on my computer is for
Oh.
work stuff or this, so I just didn't. Most
Is-
people are going to be out and about if they get on it and get on their phone. So
Yes, it's fully mobile responsive. So even if I go here and just reduce the size of the screen, sorry, I'm working with the thumb pad here. You can see that this gives you, this isn't quite relevant, but it is fully mobile responsive. And TAG is actually a mobile first agency, so we actually design progressively from the smartphone out to the desktop because more people are browsing on a smartphone now than the desktop.
perfect. Did anyone have any other questions? Did you ladies want to say anything since we made you come all the way up to the front?
Thank you for having us this evening. No, but Don did a really good job, and our web team has built this beautiful website. We've been really excited about it for months and months and months now. And one of the things that I love about it that we've been very diligent about doing is that we've been, over the course of the past, school year, a lot of updates have been coming to parents and to students. And when we've been making those updates on the current website, we've also been very diligent in making sure that those updates are still on the new website as well. So none of that information is going to get lost once we flip the switch, essentially, and switch it over to this brand new website. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I just thought of one other thing. Does this have a spot for like the parent portal that they can get in the parent portal?
Yes. Family and students, yes. There is, oops, I'm sorry. There is a parent portal call out on the district and every school website as well.
Okay. Perfect. So if they don't have the app, they can get to it right there. Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, you guys are relieved. You can get out of here now. Did you have any other superintendent?
That concludes the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Committee reports. Policy, finance. Anybody got any committee reports? Not right now.
Policy's just plugging along. So
Okay. I guess the only thing I have, Vice President Hayes and myself and Superintendent Schneckloff had a advocacy meeting with the NAACP to kind of see how we can work together on some things and kind of bridge that gap. That was very productive, and I think it's going to be a monthly thing. So appreciate partnering with them and look forward to working with them. No other committee reports. We'll move on to items requiring action. There are none. Man, moving right on. I guess I'll skip right over that. Discussion items. Item 1101, budget amendment for fiscal year 21.
Kevin, if you want to go ahead and take this section, I
Sure.
believe you'll be presenting.
Yep, sure. We've got two parts here, and we're going to kind of do them in order. We have an amendment for the current fiscal year that's ending June 30th. So I want to talk briefly about that. You'll see that you have one item, one-page item. The budget amendment is strictly a notice to the public that we're going to spend not more than X amount of dollars. Last April, when the budget was approved, there was a typo in the carrying forward the dollars for some funds. And you'll see on that page that it's significantly more that we're amending to, but that is because we were missing some of the funds when we certified the budget. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change taxes. It doesn't change tax levy. It just informs the public that we are going to spend more than what we published, anticipated. There's 4 categories. We're really talking about 4 numbers: instruction, total support services, non-instruction, and other expenditures. We'll talk more about that on the next agenda item for introducing the budget, and it'll come full circle for you. But this is just a draft, and we'll bring that back to you, and we'll follow this through the next board meeting, and also we'll publish and approve this finally on the April 12th board meeting. We'll do the similar thing for the FY22 budget, but I wanted to share this with you so you had a good look at it, and between now and then, if you have questions, do reach out to me. Any questions on that?
Director Klein Jerome.
Does this data entry transfer issue happen often? I mean, because this is significant, 427,000 going to $8 million.
It does not happen often. It was just an oversight. It was everything as far as what we levied for taxes and our revenue and expenditures are accurate. It's just the information that we gave for the totals on our publication was in error. It just didn't follow through, and it's not common.
But we gave the right amount to the state. It's just what we published. Is that
Correct.
okay?
The aid and levy and the budget that we gave them was accurate. It's just the publication that was in error.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Not too bad. Next item, I believe that'll be you as
Yes,
well.
sir.
1102, certified budget for FY22.
So Kevin, before you start on this one, and I know you plan on that because we're going to share the PowerPoint, but really hammer home those dates. I believe that's one of our slides too, so our board members know what to expect coming.
Yes, it will be.
Thank you.
They'll follow each other exactly. So we're working on this, and we've been working with Gary, and Lisa and I have been working on this certified budget for the last several weeks. It lasts several weeks for me, but what we're doing with this is this is not an action item also. It's just information for the board, kind of the opening up of what we're going to see for the FY22 budget. We're going to talk about what this is and where we're going with this and explain some of the details. If you want to stop me anytime you have questions, or if you want to wait till the end, I don't care either way. But we're going to just talk about where we're at with the budget certification. The next slide tells us what this is. It's the document that shows what the amount of taxes will be levied and what we'll receive and what we'll expend. You'll see on the note on there that it's to be certified by April 15th. That is why we will be asking for action on April 12th, so we can get it certified to the county and to the Department of Management by the 15th. That will be a public hearing as well. On the next slide, it tells us this is what we're really certifying. We're informing the public the maximum we can spend in all funds for the fiscal year 22. It also informs of what the property tax rate will be for FY22. We'll get into some of the line item details here in a minute, but this is just kind of what it is and what we're really certifying. On the next slide, this is going to look familiar what I just showed you on the last slide. These are the 4 categories that we are certifying. This has 5 categories on it because it's the total expenditures, but these are the 4 areas that we're certifying. And you'll see that it'll true itself up when we look at a future slide, and it'll make a lot more sense to you when you see the numbers. On the next slide, this is how we calculate the property tax rate. It is the dollars for all funds combined, and it's a total tax rate, not by individual funds. Yes, we have a tax rate by individual funds, but when we certify it, it's certified in total. On the next slide, this is important, and we'll show you the form that shows this. There's 3 parts to it. There's 3 columns. The first column is showing exactly what we spent for fiscal year 2020. That year has been audited. It also informs the public what we expect to spend in FY21. This ties back to the first slide that I showed you. It's the expected. And the third column is informing what we expect for FY22, and that is the year that we're certifying. But it's just information for the public. On the next slide, we are talking about what the budgets are. The certified budget, I use the term your credit card maximum. The certified budget sets your maximum legal spending for all funds and tax rates. I think we've talked about unspent budget also in the past. It's the legal spending authority that we have for the general fund. And then line item budget sets the expected spending and use for day-to-day decisions. The line item budget is what we'll be working on going forward after we certify this budget and get some of our staffing in place, and so forth. And now we'll get into some of the numbers behind the scenes. There's key variables that we talk about when we're talking about funding. The key variables here are for funding of property tax. You'll see there the certified enrollment and the preschool enrollment, for example. You'll see what's happened with our changes from 21 to 22, that we've lost 460 students and 73 students in the preschool enrollment. And you'll see what happened with state aid that was just signed into law at the 2.4%. And you'll see some of those. I won't go through those, all of them, but they are numbers that go into how we fund our general fund. Our cash reserve levy is a good one to talk about also. We cash reserve for items so that if we have overage, for example, in special ed, if we have other items that we need to get additional authority to spend, that's where we get our cash reserve. It also helps us stay solvent. And you'll see some of the statistics there with the taxable valuation change, and the TIF valuation that we get from the counties. And then below there, you'll see what we have for other funds. You'll see the regular PEPAL and the voted PEPAL. That's not general fund, but that's the other voted, that's PEPAL in general. And then the management fund is a dollar amount that we set on our aid and levy. You'll see that 4.8 million. That will factor into a tax rate, but that is local tax dollars. I'll stop right there. Are there any questions on this slide? I know there's a lot of stuff in there.
It doesn't appear that there are any. Oh, Director Beck.
I apologize if I missed this, but why do we have, for example, cash reserve levy SBRC 2.246 million for 2021 and then a 0?
That's a good question. We lumped those together for FY22. It's a combination. It's mainly special ed deficit.
Okay.
So it's just a change in how we're reporting it.
Okay.
Okay. On the next slide, we're talking about the key expenditure changes. Here you'll see all the funds, and you'll see that in 2022, the thing I want to make an emphasis on this is FY21 is what we expect to spend, and FY22 is a budgetary amount. The first thing that strikes you on that is that general fund, when we're going from 192.7 million to 204.9 million, that's a huge increase. We'll get into that in the next slide, but you'll see that this is where we anticipate our expenditures to be by fund. Like I said, we'll talk about that general fund here in a second. Any questions on that slide? I'm going to keep going on this if you don't, because I want to really get to this next slide. When I saw $12 million in the general fund, it's like that jumped out at me. And why is it such a change? And you'll see that here. Right away on, you see the SR2 funds. There is an $8.5 million increase. Obviously, it's new funding, so we're anticipating spending $10 million this next fiscal year. If we spend more, we'll come back and amend. But we just, for a placement, we put $10 million in there. We have a budget contingency of $2 million also where it's unanticipated expenditures. So it would help us not to have to amend if we stay within that. And you'll see some of those others that are, some are higher and some are lower, but those are the two biggest items that we have, and that's why that $12 million on the prior slide is significant. On the next slide, we're going to revenues by fund, and you'll see that some of those revenues on the general fund will be ESSER dollars. That's what we're anticipating having to spend. But otherwise, debt service is a little bit lower because we have less debt to pay. But the others are pretty close to where we should be, and they kind of flow from $239 million to $244 million in total. On the next slide, we're going to be talking a little bit about property tax projections. This is the history of where we have been on our property tax assessment. One of our goals was for 2022 is to maintain the tax levy at 1529, and this draft shows that exactly as that. And you'll see how it breaks down by fund. The 1263 for general, the 94 for the management fund. That's what that 4.8 million equates to as far as a property tax levy. And you see your $1.67 PEPL. One of the interesting things when you saw debt service expenditures, but you don't see property tax in there, that is because we buy that down to zero by using our sales tax funds. So that's not in this slide as far as a tax, local tax.
Director Poston.
Just going back a few slides, expenditures by fund on the total for 2022, it's 246 million. You go down to revenues, total 244 million. So we're looking at, am I looking at this right? Are we looking at a deficit there?
Yes, it's a deficit as far as what we're certifying, but when we go to our working budget, we'll be making sure that we stay under those. The one thing that this does, this assumes for 2022, I should have said this on the slide that we're on now, the expenditures projected. This assumes that every one of these categorical fundings are spent 100%. We know that's not actually what happens, but this is setting the ceiling, not the floor, or not. If we get too close to cutting it to exactly what we're going to spend, we may go over and we'll have to amend. So that's one caveat for 2022. On the next slide, we're hitting the key revenue changes. This is where you'll see where our uniform levy is. That's derived from the count. Our additional levy with dropout prevention and budget guarantee, we'll have to pass a resolution to have the budget guarantee along with the budget itself, so there'll be a second resolution. You'll see the dropout prevention dollars, the cash reserve. We've talked a little bit about that. Our instructional support levy. One note on that one will be expiring at the end of 2022. So we'll be coming back to you to renew an instructional support levy closer to into July. but you'll see that's our 10% instructional support levy, and with a total of $61.4 million of general fund dollars. On our projections, this is the tax rate, general fund tax rate makeup. We start with the formula goes a $5.40 per thousand of assessed valuation that every school district has to assess. The additional levy with dropout prevention and budget guarantee takes you to 87.5% of your per pupil amount, and the rest is picked up again by property tax. So it's kind of 3 layers. It's $5.40, then it gets you to 87.5%, whatever state aid comes, and then the rest is property tax. And we'll show you what state aid looks like here in another slide. But you'll see that we are sitting at $12.63 in the general fund for property tax assessment.
Director Beck.
So I've been hearing a lot, and maybe you're going to get into this in the next slide, but the the idea that some legislators think where districts are going to have to raise property taxes to make up for. Can you explain how that works?
Yeah. When you the budget guarantee, that 30 on this slide that we're sitting on right now, that 0.3517, when you're losing enrollment and you have a budget guarantee, the state isn't giving you the dollars. They're allowing you to tax for it so you can have the dollars for your budget guarantee. That is exactly where that comes from.
Okay.
So on this slide also, when we get to the slide after this, this is a general fund tax rate. And the next slide will show you exactly what the dollar makeup is of those assessments. This slide I don't want you to have to look at. Don't strain your eyes because we're going to go to the next slide here in a minute. This is exactly what goes in the paper for our certification. The top half of that's revenue, the bottom half is expenditures. And if we go to the next slide, you can see it a little bit better. This is where our levy is. You can show you see all of our taxes, our miscellaneous income. And you'll see us, like state aid, for example, is sitting at $111,000. It's kind of hard to see, but that is your 87.5% to get to where the state is supporting those funds. You'll see things in there like Title I, other categorical funds, but this is the whole thing in its entirety. It includes all funds. And you'll see re-estimated 2021, that is what we're going to be approving separately just before we approve this one. And we're really looking at 2022. This is where the 3 lines are: actual 2020 on the right, re-estimated 2021, and the budget for 2022. On the next page, that shows the bottom half of the expenditures. And again, you'll see where those the yellow lines are with the red arrows. There's 4 categories: your instruction, your instructional, your support services, your non-instructional, and your total other. This is the breakdown of. There's lines in between for support services, for example, and you can see what that makeup is by seeing what those lines are. And you'll see at the very, very bottom, our property tax rate is that 1529 that matches what we're at currently.
Director Poston.
So do you know how many items are combined under total other expenditures? I mean, 24 million, that seems like a lot of total other expenditures. Is there any way of breaking that down more?
Yeah, really there's 3 things in the other. That's a really good question because that's a big number to have something that says other. Other is your AEA flow through is a big chunk of it. Your other is also debt service. and other facilities acquisition. Those are the three categories in the other. And you can see those, that's kind of between the third arrow and the fourth arrow. You can see those three lines: facilities acquisition, debt service, AEA support. We're anticipating some facilities acquisition. That's your largest chunk of money, where you're sitting at $13 million. Did that answer your question? Okay. On the next slide, this is what we're approving for certification. These are those four categories, and that's what's in yellow. This is what this whole thing boils down to. It seems like a lot of stuff to boil down into four numbers, but it's your four categories with your total expenditures. Our responsibility is to make sure that we don't go over that in total, but also that we continue to look at this to make sure that any individual line that we don't go over, and if we need to amend any of those, that we're supposed to inform the public. If we ever have to amend, it will not be raising taxes. It won't be doing anything but just informing the public. And finally, the last slide, the next slide, this is the calendar of events. We have to publish the budget and the amendment 10 to 20 days before. So we're looking at the end, we're looking at having the hearing for both of these on April 12th. We'll need to publish the 10 to 20 days before. So we'll bring this back to you at the next board meeting so we can set a hearing date for April 12th, and we'll certify the budget the next day to the county and to the state. If Gary's listening, he can add anything that I missed, but I think I covered it.
Does anybody have any questions? I think this was your first presentation to the board. You did a pretty good job.
It is.
Very informative. Don't break your arm patting yourself on the back, though, but you did do a good job. Director Beck.
I just wanted to say thank you. I like how you laid out the question on the slide with the answers. That was
Right.
really helpful for me
Right.
To follow along, because no matter how many times I hear it, I still can't always, keep straight right off the top of my head what each term or what we're doing with each type of budget that we look at. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, Forecast 5 does a really good job at pulling that information and explaining it, because it's really complicated, but to be able to see each of the pieces is important.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Next item for discussion, citation report.
Thank you. Brenda, will you pull up the action plan section? Yep, and if you could zoom that in, that would be great. Perfect. Thank you. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, because the parts that concern you, you're living them every single day. So in terms of leadership and school board training, we've established some one of the updates in this area is that we have established a routine for the agenda committee to receive regular feedback from IASB, and we're very excited about that opportunity, and that's the last Wednesday of every month. That allows us to go through an entire cycle of our board meetings with the committee of the whole, 2 regular meetings, and they will highlight portions of our meeting and give us feedback. One of the things that you'll notice about in the second report is that we're going to begin to work on aligning our conversations, our board requests, everything around the board and school board goals, which are the current plan that we're working through here, which I think is going to be absolutely critical as we move forward. And we're going to continue to work with posting our agendas and making sure that the information's coming to the board in a timely fashion. If you scroll down, but you'll notice here at the very top, there's an 86% and 86%. You'll notice that 1.1 did not calculate on this action plan, and that's the difference that would show growth for this month. So as you go through this, you'll notice that we actually made growth for this month, but that will be a 3 in that first column, and that will give us a considerable jump in our percentages, but it's the exact same for this month, and that's it. I put in a request to have that fixed. It calculates off of the other tab along the bottom. Moving down, our teacher evaluations continue to be finished, and so the next one down will be database decision making. You had an extensive report on the database decision making from the CRVP. You reviewed data. You saw, you asked questions about what do we do when that data is not working. So that was a great step in the right direction for that database decision making. We are planning next steps in this area where our board, facilitated by the Department of Ed and the AEA, we're going to begin looking at data that's relative to our plan routinely. So student data, discipline data, things that are important to our plan, and we're going to routinely bring that to the board, and we're going to begin to have conversations in that area. So that's the next step there. Those conversations have started to occur, and so look forward to implementing that in the second semester, where we're looking at student data in the areas that are pertinent to our plan. And finances, I'm moving down. You can see some growth in this area. Right now, our district is working through their negotiations team, utilizing a very transparent process. Our school board set some goals for that as key measures as we move forward. Our finance committee is really becoming to be routine. We're seeing regular reports come, and so that's what's moving the needle in each one of these areas. As we move forward, the next steps in this area is to really start to bridge the gap between, this is the critical area that we notice in our finances and in our planning processes. We're getting ready to set our staffing and goals for the next year. And so we're really working with Gary and Kevin and our HR department very closely to really make sure that we are setting those staffing limits inside of our current budget.
For the finance part, the people you have responsible, you have Gary Sinclair and Lisa Cruz listed.
Mm-hmm.
At what
Yes.
point will that be switched over to Kevin being the CFO?
So we could put Kevin's name probably there right now. That's probably good feedback to do that. Gary Sinclair will be released when at the discretion of the Department of Ed. He is still the advisor to the board. So that's a good point.
So
That's
they
good
know
feedback.
that we did hire CFO and he is.
I can change that immediately.
Okay,
That's good feedback.
thank you.
Thank you. In our IEP section, proud to announce that number 1 is complete, and we continue to move forward with our professional development. This is making progress, but again, our number 1 focus is our CRVP. So this is something that they're continually moving forward with in terms of fidelity. We meet every Monday, and Sandy's putting together a plan to really make sure that we are doing what we said we were going to do, and so that professional development continues to move forward. In terms of MTSS in the next section, the multi-tiered system of support, we're really in a holding pattern here because we're working extensively on our crisis response violence prevention section in PBIS. And so more to come on that. On the next section, you received an extensive presentation on crisis response violence prevention in this area. So that's where that number moved from a 2.5 to a 3. And so that's the movement in that area. We don't need to continue to go over that. And the last section, the engagement piece, that moved up, that ticked up a little bit. As you heard President Goza talk about, we are beginning to establish standing meetings that are modeled directly off of our crisis response community team meetings. Here are issues that both sides are having. How can we communicate together to make our district stronger? And that's the exact tone of the meetings that are being established. And so we have established a standing meeting with two groups, two civic groups that are really going to help us take the next steps. And I'm proud of that work. We have a long way to go. That's why it's still listed at 1.4 and not higher. The reason why that didn't go up to a 2 is because I feel like that we've started this work. I don't believe that that we're working towards that work. We started it. And so I think we're moving in the right direction in that area. And so overall, I believe that our citations are heading in the right direction. And so at this time, I would take any questions that the board members would have.
Director Poston.
I know you just mentioned that the focus is on CRVP and not so much on MTSS, but one of the goals under that is 80% of students are on track to be proficient readers by 3rd grade. What did this past year do as far as reaching that goal?
You know, that's an excellent question, and that is exactly the kind of day that it needs to be sitting in front of the school board. I'm very glad you asked that. Shane Williams, Bill Decker, and myself, we're beginning to work on putting that data in front of the school board so that you can see exactly what has occurred. What will happen from there is you guys will ask, just picture it, you guys will ask your IASB questions, which will then turn and drive the direction that's heading with our district. That's exactly what our next steps are going to be. I will tell you that the pandemic's been tough. I mean, we are seeing, I know Shane has really got into some of the data, but it's had an impact on our students. We'll say that. A negative impact.
And then just a follow up to that, and I don't know if this is the right question to ask or not, but again, going back to the reading and the effects on our kindergartners and our 1st graders. I assume parents will have the option of holding those students back.
I believe there is legislation that is going through right now for that. We'll have more information to come on that. Again, those are excellent questions that are really, if I highlight a line of questioning that is directly in line with the plan that we're doing, that is exactly it. Because that's going to drive reports, that's going to drive data conversations, and those are all surrounded around the plan that we're currently working. So thank you for those questions.
I guess I'll just kind of add a comment. I like that we're starting to see progress on this, and I realize that some areas we're not making progress because we've been focused on CRVP rollout, and I think that's a good thing because I think all the time in this district in the past, we've tried to implement so many things at once that things fall by the wayside and they don't get implemented properly. So, and again, that wouldn't be happening if, we weren't working with the Department of Ed or Shane and Bill with the AEA and the other support staff to really hone in and focus on this stuff. So, we are making progress. It just looks like on some areas we're not, but that's kind of the premise behind that. Because I know we had to explain that to one of the groups, when they were asking those questions. So that's kind of why you don't see some of that progress in some of those areas. But all in all, everything seems to be rolling out pretty good. And once that gets rolled out effectively, I'm sure we'll move on to the next thing and really dive in on that. So we start actually seeing some results from the things that we're rolling out. So I think we're on the up and up, and we do appreciate the Department of Ed's support as well as the AEA.
I want to highlight, we had regular updates about CRVP. We had regular updates about the finance, and the board was asking really tough questions about our finance committee. There's routine data that comes to from the finance committee to the school board. And look at the actions that have happened. That's our next step. Our next step is to own this plan, review the data from this plan, Because once we start doing that and asking questions, all of our administrative teams, our teacher teams, that becomes the focus. And I will say that that's the next step for our district. These board goals, those are our community goals. This plan, this is our community's plan to move forward because it has MTSS, it has those things in there. The second thing that I want to remind our school board of is that while we are focusing on one thing, our teachers are working their absolute tails off. Teachers, staff in the buildings at increasing our reading levels, at keeping our buildings safe, those kinds of things. So I want you to know, just because that might not be our focus, they are continuing to work hard, business as usual in that area. Not that we're perfect at it, but they are continuing to step in that right direction.
Are there any other questions on this? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Oh, Director Beck.
I appreciate what you said, Mr. Schneckloth. I do want to reiterate concerns that I think I've hopefully expressed before in public, that the red is in the area that most affects our students. And though we are starting to see it become a little less red, which is good, when we look at our sort of overall action plan, we are still, the green tends to be more in things like board and leadership and finances. And so I'd love to see those, and I'm sure we all would, but just concerns.
Well, I would like to comment on that. Where you see that as it pertains to students, the growth is in 25 section 1. Notice the steady incline there, and that's exactly where we're focusing. Okay, the reason why this is so important is because this is the vehicle for how other things are going to roll out. Okay. So PBIS is a system. Notice this is under PBIS. Mm-hmm. PBIS is a system of how you roll things out, and safety is first. Mm-hmm. And so it was a very intentional and smart place to start, because now that we have a system that works for rolling things out, learning to say no, focusing our efforts, that will the work as we move forward with MTSS and early literacy and those things will move much faster. So while I agree with you, we really have to learn the system of moving things throughout. And our next step is just begin to look at that data. So thank you for that question. It's very valid. And I think that we're taking the right steps to go fast in those other areas, because everybody wants to go fast in those areas. And so right now we're going slow to go fast. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 1104, early retirement opportunity.
I'll go. So while Jamie is pulling up what she would like to see, we wanted to, as we are moving forward with our budgets and as we are moving forward with our staffing for next year, we're beginning to see a potential fallout from our mid-year early retirement. We had quite a few early retirements at our secondary level, and we had which might cause us some staffing constraints. And so one of the solutions that we thought of in our brainstorming is the thought of a potential second early retirement. And so I want everybody to know that this is not, if I were to channel my inner Gary Sinclair, this is not something that we would like to be doing right now. It's not ideal. But sometimes we have to make the necessary decisions to get us where we need to be in terms of finances and the ability to staff our buildings. So with that being said, we would like to bring something forth before the board that we believe gives us the flexibility and at the same time recognizes the service of our hardworking employees. So Jamie.
Sure. So, as TJ just mentioned, the recognition of service, as well as some of the endorsement issues that we're facing at the high school level, offering an early retirement. Now, it won't be as generous as what we just did for the middle of the school year. It will go back towards the our traditional early retirement incentive plan. This has been reviewed with Gary Sinclair. We do know that we can only have 30 people participate in what the management fund can afford. We're looking at offering it to 1.0 full-time equivalent employees. Part of the reason for this is I know that negatively impacts our paraeducators and food service. Do you need me to speak louder?
Just a little closer, that's
A little
all.
closer. So the one FTE, second bullet point up there, is with our food service and our paraeducators. We've lost 29 paraeducators so far this year, and food service has 40 openings. So we can't continue to incentivize people living in areas where we need to retain. As you can see, the duration starts at 20 years and from 20 years and beyond, and it goes back to that traditional stepped approach to the incentive. Let's see here, just making sure I hit all of my bullet points as far as the reasoning and the changes from what we just rolled out for February and March.
Director Potts.
Thank you.
That's my bad ear.
That's okay. How many positions, when we started this school year, how many teaching positions did we have left vacant?
So good question. That's actually something I'm working on for Gary Sinclair right now, is to take a picture of the beginning of the year and what it looks like after we went through all of the early retirements across all of the groups. So we can actually, what we're trying to do, working with Kevin as well, is looking at a full-time equivalent forecast so we can show the board and everyone where the number of heads. I guess in HR, like I told TJ today, I count bodies. Kevin counts the dollars. So we're working together to pull the full-time equivalents and how many were vacant, how many were reduced, how many are now left over from the early retirement. So we're putting that picture together.
Because my concern is it seems to me we've been culling the herd annually, and what we're losing is experienced people. And I know in regular school years, not COVID school years, which is a different kind of mathematics, but we have gotten into a position where we have been starting the school year with a number of vacancies. And I don't pretend to know what the supply of new teachers is, okay? But it would just appear to me that in the past few years, it's become more difficult to find teachers. So I would hope that we wouldn't be cutting off our nose to spite our face.
So this goes back to the discussion of managing the budget through attrition. So I did look to see at how many every month we're tracking the number of people that we're adding and the number of people that are leaving. And the beginning of the year, we had over 80 teachers start. So when we talked about managing through attrition for last year, that didn't really happen. So now we're, I don't want to say it, from my perspective, seeing the term attrition and yet you're still hiring. So that's my perspective here, is then now this year we're trying to make up for all of that. So we did not have a ton of vacancies at the beginning of the year. We did a lot of hiring. And it might have been hiring that maybe we should have looked at the data and dug a little deeper before we proceeded.
To your point, Bruce, is that we wanted, the second we discovered this, we wanted to bring a potential solution, because the last thing we want to be doing is hiring in June and July because we can't find anybody and then starting the year with a vacancy. I believe is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, because I've been in that position where all of a sudden,
Absolutely.
and you can't put a long-term sub in now.
Absolutely.
So you're really, what's that TV show? Somebody's Creek?
Yeah.
Director Beck.
I feel like I said this the last time we discussed early retirement incentives. I understand the necessity and the budget, and I understand that we've been trying to do as much as we can through attrition, but it really, really concerns me when we see the experience. We're targeting experienced people in the district, whether they be custodians or teachers or paras. These are the people who have already demonstrated that they know how to interact with our children. You know, there's always exceptions, but these are the people that have already kind of gone through those bumps, right? And that steep learning curve you get when you start a job like this. And so it just always makes me feel really uncomfortable when we're talking about early retirement incentives again, especially when we're looking at the longevity of some of these people. It's the experience, and I understand, but I think there is something to be said for experience in some situations. So
I think that's a well said, excellent statement, and I wish we were not in this situation. I wish we were not. And the reality is that we are here. We need the flexibility, and at the same time, it honors those that have served us. As we review these numbers, and we say this all the time, but now we have the numbers, this will not be available in the near future. I don't know if it's 1 or 2 years, but we now know exactly what our management fund has in it, can manage, and this.
There's no more than 30 in this offering.
So there is an end in sight.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought there was last time. I think in looking at it further, when the situation came up and talking with Gary Sinclair, there are people that are rolling off. So as you're looking at the management fund and the early retirements that have happened in the past, there are individuals rolling off, which would allow for us to offer this.
And there's another thing. As we were changing our printing, we found some things that were inside of our management fund that are no longer there, that gave us some freedom there as well. So because of those discoveries are what are allowing this to happen. And if Gary were to talk, this is not optimal, but it allows us the flexibility that we need in this time. When we're looking at staffing, you can't take elementary teachers to the high school, and in those particular areas we're going to need a little bit of flexibility. And one of the things that we've been brainstorming as a new team, how to move forward, is this spot right here. We're doing negotiations, we're getting ready to set staffing, and so what are the numbers that we're looking at? And so today Kevin and our financial team sat down and they looked at a process for exactly reviewing the number of teachers that we started the year with right after early retirement and what we need to move forward. And so that's going to be very helpful as we move forward in our planning, because we're counting things that we know we need to count.
And counting takes a little bit longer because we need to leverage the technology, right? It's not as easy as it sounds.
Director Klein Jerome.
On the positive side, because that early retirement incentive that we offered the first time around didn't include groups outside of administration, teachers, and non-bargaining. I appreciate the fact that this would include them. On the other hand, I have drank the Kool-Aid, and I now buy into the idea that this is not a benefit. And when we said the first time, this is it, we're not offering it again. And then we lowered that number and we did it a second time, And now we're doing it a third time. So truly, this has got to be it. And we can't say, well, one more time, one more time. So people need to realize this is it. And this isn't a benefit anymore, that it's used by the district to manage funds, to manage staffing. And I know in the past we've looked at it as a benefit. Hey, I was there. I understand that. It was a benefit that I appreciated at the time. So we need to rethink our thoughts and not offer it 3 times in 1 year, in 3 months. That troubles me. But I'm glad that other employee groups would fall into this category and be able to take advantage of it, since they didn't in the first 2.
Any other comments? Director Beck.
So in regard to what Director Klein-Jerome just said, what's Plan B if we don't get enough early retirements through this? Do we have a Plan B, I guess, is the more important question. Because we can't just keep offering lower and lower and lower. And I agree. I appreciate the fact that this is extended to other groups of employees. But we have to make sure that we aren't doing this again in another month.
We have to make sure that we manage our attrition.
Okay.
The second thing we need to do is we need to start our long-range facility planning. That's the second thing. Those are going to be incredibly difficult conversations, but those are our next 2 steps. And the only way to do that is to count exactly what we have and know exactly what we're staffing for. And so those are the directions that we're heading right now.
Anyone else have any comments? The only thing I'll say, I would much rather give people the opportunity to take an early retirement than have to pink slip someone. I mean, that's how I look at this. It's an attrition thing. It sucks, but it's better than the alternative. With that being said, did anyone have anything else? Did you have anything else?
No, thank you, Jamie. Appreciate it.
Oh, you may leave the podium now. All right, moving on to board requests. Are there any board requests?
Actually, I'm going to hold off on mine.
All right, seeing none. Administrative reports.
There are none at this time.
All right. Board reflection. I'm going to start with Director Hayes. What were your takeaways from this meeting?
My takeaway from it, I was really glad to see the nice website. I think that's a plus for the district and moving in a positive direction. And the budget presentation. Thank you so much. Your first time out, you knocked it out of the park. So those were 2 things that I take away from the meeting.
Director Snyder.
Yeah, I've got a couple things. One, I wanted to commend Kevin on his presentation. He jumped in, was confident, was thorough. The information he gave, he answered all the questions, just like he's been here for years. So excellent job. We're making great progress with our citations, with the help of Bill, Shane, the AEA, the state, the IASB, pretty much, and TJ and his entire team making great progress. And finally, that progress is getting to a point where it's more visible. So that's exciting. As far as the early retirements, I completely agree that I hate to see our experienced teachers leave the buildings because they're one of the most valuable resources we have. But unfortunately, when you're a district that's down about 700 students from previous years, and you're only allowed to spend so much money per student, no matter how much money you have or what your needs are, that's all you can spend. Drastic times call for drastic measures, and I would much rather offer it this way than pink slip teachers, as Dan said, or pink slip anybody. So it's not exciting, but unfortunately, school finance is full of things that we have to do that we don't like to do.
Thank you, Director Potts.
I would say the new website is what I found very important, very interesting, because our website is our public face. More public, more strangers will interact and get an opinion of this district based on their experience on that website. So I think that, to me, that was the highlight. I also much enjoyed the athletic recognitions. I don't. He's gone now, but the article in the paper that they wrote was just outstanding.
Yeah.
It was a big article in the paper. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Director Potts. Thank you, Director Potts. Director Beck.
My first one was actually how many outstanding student athletes we have in the district, despite all that's been going on, the fact that we have students still doing amazing things when some of us don't even realize that they're still going on, because we may not have a student who's doing those kinds of things. So I appreciated that, and also just the fantastic, we have a state champ in bowling, and not only the state champ, but the best state champ in Iowa history, so that is fantastic. The second thing was the website. It's a much needed improvement. I love the autonomy that different schools have in terms of sharing their good news. And I look forward to the fact that people can navigate it very easily. It is our public face, and I think it's important. I look forward to seeing more pictures of our students. It's a big screen. It's got lots of capability for images, so we'll be able to see lots and lots of things going on in the district. And my other takeaway is that school finances are complicated and not pretty, but we do the best we can in the situation that we're in, always trying to make sure that we keep the students first in our minds. And I appreciate the help that we've gotten from Gary Sinclair and from the AA and the state board in terms of getting our finances in order.
Thank you. Director Poston.
I think all of us would agree that we like what we're seeing as far as the finances. But one thing we have to continue to remember is as long as we continue to have declining enrollment, we'll be facing some of these same topics that we discussed tonight. The other thing is naming Brady Street Stadium track for Iowa Dunsworth, I think is just outstanding. I'm glad to see that happening, and I think it's well intended that the district do that.
Thank you. Director Klein-Jerome.
I appreciated, Rob, that you acknowledged all the students that have competed. I mean, in whatever capacity they were in on the teams. And I'm glad you said in the spring or next month, I mean, we're going to continue this because I think we've kind of let that slide. And so I appreciate that a lot. I thought, Kevin, you did a great job on explaining this because I don't think we've ever had a presentation where we've explained what it is that we're really doing with certification and taxation and things like that. So I appreciate that as well.
Thank you. Superintendent Schneckloff.
Well, the agenda committee planned a mixture of difficult conversations with celebrations. And I want to tip my hat to the Agenda Planning Committee and IASB for helping that happen. Sometimes when you plan a board meeting, you think it's going to be an hour and a half and it's 3 hours. And you try and balance that out. And I thought that this was a very well-planned meeting with a balance, and I urge us to continue to do that. There were pre-planning of infusing our questions in the right spots. And as we move forward, that's going to be absolutely critical to continue to do that, to continue to highlight things that are going on in our district, and because we are going to have difficult conversations.
Thank you. One of my takeaways is our meetings are getting more productive. We're actually getting a lot more information. I mean, and I'll echo what everybody else said, and I think I already said it to you, Kevin, that you did a really good job, and I'm sure Lisa helped you as well. I didn't want to leave her out. She's sitting in the back of the room, so greatly appreciate all that. It feels a lot better setting up here when you actually have the real data on things and just not things asked to vote on and things like that. You're actually, giving us the real stuff. So, again, the meetings are getting more productive. It is nice to do our debriefs with Harry and Luann and the ISB on that stuff. So it's worked out a lot. And again, a lot of these things wouldn't happen if we didn't have help from the AEA or the Department of Ed and they weren't actually in here, because most of the time if things, got brought up, it would get done and then we would go back to our old ways. So I think this is a lot better. It's been a lot more productive. And actually, I feel like each meeting is getting better. More board members are getting engaged, asking questions, and we're getting a lot more data now. I think when our presenters come, they're pretty prepared with all the questions that we ask, so that is nice. I really love the fact that we're highlighting the things that our students are doing, and that'll be a recurring thing. I think that's awesome. And all in all, I think it's been a good meeting. I like the citation report, seeing the uptick, and we're actually starting to make some traction on some of those things. So it looked like it took a little while for things to work its way out, but now as things starting to get in place and align, things are moving a little swifter towards the end goal. Otherwise, again, I think it's been a great productive meeting. I do appreciate all of your participation and engagement. And with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Dang, I thought you guys wanted to stay all night. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.